Good morning. I'm Lisa Ordonez, Dean of UC San Diego's Rady School of Management. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the 9th Annual Triton Innovation Challenge, a business plan competition open to students, faculty, and staff from across UC San Diego's campus who are innovating in ways that have an environmental impact. Today, they are presenting their technologies that come from, are inspired by, or directly impact nature. Today's event would not be possible without the generous support of Bill Scripps and the William and Catherine Scripps Family Foundation, who approached us more than 9 years ago with the idea for this program. One of the hallmarks of this program is that it not only highlights innovation in areas of environmental value, but also encourages and emphasizes the collaboration among the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, the Jacobs School of Engineering, and the Rady School of Management, as you will see from today's presenters. Activities leading up to tonight's event included a networking mixer with attendees from all three schools and a boot camp to prepare teams for the semifinals. It is now my pleasure to hand things over to Margaret Leinen, Vice Chancellor for Marine Sciences, Director of Scripps Institution of Oceanography, and Dean of the School of Marine Sciences.
Ocean Visions has provided an opportunity to talk about the importance of interaction with the private sector as we think about the ocean and the ocean we need for the future we want. And we've heard several sessions focused on how to make that happen. But in this session, we're going to have a great opportunity to see some wonderful examples of real existing interactions, new ideas and companies formed to bring solutions to ocean problems. UC San Diego is a vibrant community in which scientists, students, staff, and volunteers work together, seek, teach, and communicate scientific understanding of the oceans, atmosphere, Earth, and other planets for the benefit of society and the environment. And while what I just described is the mission of Scripps Oceanography, we live in a great ecosystem at UC San Diego in which our partners across the campus work with us to achieve that mission. And our closest partners are the Jacobs School of Engineering and the Rady School of Management. In past years, our three organizations have hosted this pitch competition at Scripps. And while I'm disappointed not to be welcoming you on campus today in person, we're excited to be partnering with Ocean Visions to bring our newest entrepreneurs tackling environmental challenges to the 2021 Ocean Visions Summit. The summit this week uniquely brought together a multi-sector community of researchers, innovators, decision makers, funders, and more to develop roadmaps for solving great ocean challenges, including ocean-based solutions to climate, equitable coastal solutions, strategies for resilience and adaptation, marine circular economies, ocean and human health, and how to transform research from academia into sustainable businesses. The summit is occurring during the first year of the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. And as a member of the executive planning group for the decade, I'm particularly excited to see forums like the summit bring together diverse expertise that we need so much for the ocean we want. Today's competition will also mark the launch of Start Blue, a brand new program that is a collaboration between Scripps and the Rady School of Management. And we'll be sharing more about this exciting program later on this morning. And now I'd like to welcome Professor Albert Pisano, Dean of the Jacobs School of Engineering. Al?
This competition is one of the longest standing partnerships in innovation on campus, with the staffs of Rady School of Management, Jacobs School of Engineering, and the Scripps Institute of Oceanography all working collaboratively to bring together students, faculty, and staff, and to encourage the growth and formation of cross-disciplinary teams, as well as provide education through the Innovation Bootcamp. So I'd like to thank the following staff for their work on today's program. Gwen and Vanessa from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, thank you. Dennis, Alex, Marie, and Joyce from the Jacobs School Institute of the Global Entrepreneur, and Karen and Diana from Rady School of Management's California Institute for Innovation and Development. So now, it is now my pleasure to introduce today's MC, Leo Spiegel. Hello, Leo, I see you out there. Leo is a serial startup founder and executive, having worked with more than 50 companies with 25 exits, including 3 IPOs and 4 companies he co-founded. He is managing partner of Spiegel Capital Management, investing in promising startup companies, and the CEO and president of Hunter Madison Group, consulting on venture capital, private equity, corporate development, mergers and acquisitions, business execution, and board of director services. Leo, man, you're a one-stop shop. Holy mackerel. An alumnus of UC San Diego, Leo is a trustee of the UC San Diego Foundation and a member of the International Leadership Committee Campaign for UCSD. He serves on the Dean's Advisory Council at the Rady School of Management and serves as a board member of the Basement, an incubator of the UC San Diego campus. He is the immediate past board chair of the Jewish Community Foundation of San Diego. He is a member of the San Diego Jewish Community COVID-19 Emergency Fund Task Force and a past board president of UC San Diego Jewish Academy. Leo, it's my pleasure to say over to you.
Let's get going. First up on my agenda is to introduce our judges. I'm going to briefly introduce each one of them, and then we'll get right to the competition. So first, Carrie Inyati is the co-founder and CEO of Made Noble Corporation, where impact-driven entrepreneurs and business owners are supported in creating sustainable solutions. Before starting Made Mobile, she held positions as director of operations, university professor, project manager, real estate broker, investor, and entrepreneur. Her passion is creating businesses that find sustainable ways to make our world better. Ted Janulis is the founder and principal of Investable Oceans. Ted has served in various executive positions, including CEO at financial institutions involved in capital markets, banking, and asset management, has over 30 years as a business person. He is president emeritus of the Explorers Club in New York City and has served on numerous for-profit and nonprofit boards, currently holding positions with Gannett Company, Inc., Rock Capital, Riskspan, Inc., EcoWatch, and Duke University's Nicholas School of the Environment. Next up, we have Philippe LeBlanc. He's an environmental entrepreneur with a wide range of experience from monitoring glaciers to launching clean tech startups, who is always seeking new opportunities and innovative ideas to solve complex environmental challenges. He is currently facilitating growth of a novel blue economy incubator at the Port of San Diego to support early stage sustainable aquaculture and blue tech ventures. Next, we have Shauna Viding. She's in product management and has been executive in that area for over 20 years with innovative leadership, developing corporate strategies and growing revenues in electronic components, consumer electronics, and medical device companies. She's a creative and innovative change agent who identifies business drivers and builds collaborative, global, and cross-functional relationships. She's recognized for combining transformational business strategies by supporting operating plans, budgets, and programs. And our last judge is Luke Halsey. He's the investment director at AIM Partners, a California-based impact venture fund that invests in technology-enabled companies addressing climate change and equity access, targeting the $10 trillion industries in ocean, water, air, energy, and land and agriculture. He's previously worked at the Schmidt Family Foundation as part of the mission investing team. Luke was previously head of Farm 491 and the UK's leading technology incubator for the future of food production and food systems based at the Royal Agricultural University. So we have an incredible group of judges, and I want to thank them each for helping us with this event. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is call our first presenter to the podium, and that will be basically Algion Materials. It's going to be presented by Rose Greeley and Kim Pendergrass. They're MBA students in the Rady School of Management.
So I'd like to tell you about a store manager named Lauren. Every day, Lauren went into work and worried about the visual appeal of her store, what her direct reports were up to, and what the sales numbers were like. And then COVID hit, and Lauren took on many more responsibilities. One of these was to unpack shipments of new clothing to the store. And what she learned during this process is just how much waste there is. Clothing would come in on plastic hangers from the suppliers, which were immediately taken off, thrown away, and the clothing would be put on store-branded hangers and brought out to the front. Lauren was appalled at the pile of plastic left behind before clothes even made it to the shelves. This is the market that we're seeking to disrupt, and I'll hand it off to Kim to tell you more about why.
Thanks, Rose. By now, we can all agree that plastic is a serious threat to our environment. 90% of petroleum-based plastics have never been recycled, and they can take up to 500 years to break down in landfills. This means that all the plastic ever created to date is still in existence. Plastic is polluting our land, clogging up our waterways, filling up our oceans, and even ending up in the food we consume. If we care about our future, we have to make a change. Well, the good news is that there are regenerative solutions that already exist and support several of the United Nations Sustainable Goals. So by leveraging properties of ocean-derived materials like kelp, we can create sustainable, bio-innovative plastic alternatives. This is an ideal solution because kelp farming requires virtually zero inputs. So there's no fresh water, there's no land, and there's no fertilizer. Kelp also supports global climate change initiatives because it sequesters more carbon than land-based plants. Caring about the environment and caring about climate change is no longer a nice to have for businesses. It's a must have as these organizations look to reduce their carbon footprint and be better corporate citizens. All right, my name is Kim Pendergrass, and together with Rose Greeley, we are launching Algion Materials. We're experienced business leaders in manufacturing, wholesaling, and startups, and we are passionate about the environment. So, like the store manager, Lauren, we saw way too much packaging being used to deliver our online orders during the pandemic. So we decided to focus in on packaging waste from retailers and consumer packaged good companies. We interviewed over 30 business leaders to understand why they were not using alternative materials already available on the market today. Our hypothesis was that it was just too expensive, but that was quickly proven false. These companies were willing to spend the money on sustainable solutions, but the idea and the definition of sustainability is nuanced. Regulations differ greatly in the US from city to city, and so materials that can be deemed as recyclable or compostable are still ending up in landfills. In addition, we learned that an old design is 10 times harder to create for than when designing for new packaging. These companies need access to materials that meet their CSR goals and business needs. The materials have to be environmentally sustainable in the truest sense of the word. They have to protect the product and they have to enhance the consumer experience. Our venture, Algion Materials, is leveraging ocean-derived materials to create sustainable solutions for these brands. So we are starting with a beachhead market of plastic hanger alternatives because the negative impact to the environment is so large that it's something that we can have a meaningful impact on. We also like that the product is end customer facing because we think it will create buzz around what we're doing. And then finally, we can be competitive on price. Next, Rose will walk us through our technology and our business model.
Thanks, Kim. So we're actively prototyping our hanger design. Our material is lighter than plastic, which means it's cheaper for our customers to ship across the country. And it can easily lift 15 pounds, as you can see in this video. We're using a proprietary formula and process to mold our material into our end products. So as Kim mentioned, we're starting with plastic hanger alternatives. 85 billion plastic hangers are thrown away each year, which weighs more than every Boeing 737 ever produced. An average price of 36 cents per hanger, we arrive at our market sizes here. Using Southern California as a proxy for the portion of the market that we expect to capture, we arrive at an obtainable market of $209 million per year. You can see some of our biggest competitors in the hanger space along the bottom here, but they're selling traditional plastic hangers. Our hangers are visually striking, they're conversation starters, and they're sustainable. Our revenue model is to purchase ingredients from wholesale suppliers, take these raw ingredients and turn them into our material. Now today we're manufacturing them ourselves into the end product, but long-term we plan to move this to contract manufacturing to scale. And we sell directly business to business to retailers. In the future, we'll expand our product offerings and we'll license the technology to other manufacturers. So Kim and I have gained a lot of traction. We began ideating earlier this year, and we've already completed 2 of the Start Our accelerators, the Scripps Innovation Bootcamp. We won the UCSD portion of the Global Social Innovation Challenge and are moving on to the global finals next month. And we're here today presenting to you at the Triton Finals. So we have 4 local retailers who've agreed to collaboratively prototype with us. We'll improve the product while it's on their shelves. By the end of June, we expect to have strong signals that this is a viable product. And assuming the pilots go well, we'll hire a biochemist and fully develop the hangers over the next several months. Beyond that, we'll expand into new product offerings. So like Lauren, the store manager, many of us are realizing that plastic is piling up around us. Our waste is ending up in our oceans. Algion's vision is that when it gets there, it breaks down and goes away. Join us in creating a meaningful alternative. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. Very exciting. I'd like to now invite our judges to ask some questions. So we've got to be relatively quick, but we're going to try to do these in quick segments. We've got time for 4 questions. Would any judge like to ask a question?
I can. This is Carrie. Nice to meet you, Kim and Rose. Very good presentation, by the way, and wonderful efforts. What got you to, I guess, understanding more of your prototype, where are you right now? You said you're doing pilot testing with some of the current outlets. How is that going? Just explain a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's right. So we've got 4 local retailers they've agreed to prototype with us. So we're still in our kitchens. We've made a few prototypes, but we're getting to the point where we need to make a few dozen to actually hang them up so that they can get, one of the examples is, go ahead.
So you haven't gotten them, they haven't been tried yet. You're still in the prototyping phase?
Yes.
Okay. And who on your team has the expertise to understand like the materials and stuff like that? Or are you learning as you go?
A little bit of both. So I'm the engineer, but material science is a little bit new to both of us. So it's a lot of experimenting. I have some good friends in the plastic space, so really reaching out and learning from them as well.
Great. Does another judge have a question?
Leo? Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so no way. So hi there, I'm Luke. No, thank you for the presentation. It was really interesting. And I just had a question around competition. So there's a number of sort of ocean-derived products in other areas of packaging, like single-use plastics and areas like that. What do you think gives you sort of the edge going into the hanger market, which is a very different type of plastic? Or do you think other competitors that could move into this space?
That's a really good question, Luke. And so in our research, when we have seen others in single-use plastics, we haven't seen very many of them in the US. We have seen some overseas, both in the UK and I believe in Indonesia. And so, for us, we haven't seen anybody in the US. We haven't seen anybody making progress to actually enter the market with a product. And also at the end of the day, like the market's really large. And this is the type of venture that the people want to get behind and feel good. And I think there's a room for a lot of players in the space. Did that answer your question?
That's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Question?
Yeah, another question. Yep.
Yeah, excellent presentation. Thank you very much. The folks you're dealing with now sound like they're on the smaller end of the consumers of the product. Have you thought about, as you start to scale, what the purchasing looks like at some of the big chains and larger people that might allow you to scale more quickly in the future?
I'm so glad you asked that. So yes, we've been talking with really large retailers and consumer packaged good companies. We've been talking with Nike and Columbia Sportswear. We've been talking with Starbucks and Clorox brands. And what we're trying to understand is a few things. So what do they need from their vendors? How are their vendors vetted, and what kind of scale do their vendors need to have? The good news that I'm really excited about is, because of, CSR goals and, carbon neutrality, they're really looking to work with vendors local to North America, which I think gives us a huge boost on that. So long story short is, yes, we are talking to very large companies. That is kind of the goal to get there. But we think, in taking those steps, we're going to have to start with smaller retailers who are a little bit more flexible in a smaller scale.
Sounds very smart. Great answer. Thank you.
Great. We have time for one more question. Any judge want to throw a last one out before we go to the next presentation?
Thanks, Leo. I'd like to ask a quick one. Oh, no, you go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Phil. Go ahead.
Sure. So thanks for the presentation. Super inspiring. Good work. I was curious, you talk about through your customer discovery process, you discover that your customer are willing to pay a bit more perhaps, but through your business model, your analysis, how do you compare what's currently available to your customer in terms of pricing, and what's your strategy to lower that over time?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead, Rose.
Sure. Yeah, we're still in the prototyping phase, but our cost is relatively low. So we think we could compete at a typical price. So as we mentioned, the average price is 36 cents per hanger. Our costs are only 12 cents per hanger right now. And when we scale up how we're purchasing our materials, that will go down drastically. So we think there is budget out there, especially if they plan ahead to make things, slightly more expensive. But this is a product where we think we can be price competitive with the current alternative.
So my name's Andy Zhao. I studied material science at Stanford, and my co-founder Olivia studied material science at Carnegie Mellon. And we're both PhD students in material science at UC San Diego. And we spent the last decade of our lives studying how to make materials harder, better, faster, stronger, all the Daft Punk adjectives. And the material that we kind of turned our attention to is steel. So currently, steel manufacturing contributes over 7% of the world's CO2 emissions. So the current process involves taking iron oxide ore and burning coal or natural gas to reduce that iron oxide into iron that goes into steel manufacturing. So for every ton of steel produced, 1.8 tons of CO2 is emitted. So there's an inherent carbon price you have to pay to produce steel. So there's fossil fuels embedded in the steel supply chain. There's some potential solutions out there today. So Hybrid in Sweden and Berry Metal Company in the US have replaced fossil fuels with hydrogen reduction. So rather than burning fossil fuels, they're using hydrogen to reduce the iron oxide into iron. The problem with this process is that it will cost 20 to 30% more than traditional steel production. So as more and more of the world is industrializing around Africa and Southeast Asia, they will not be able to pay the green premium that Western countries can currently provide. And the main thing that makes this green is the hydrogen is produced through water electrolysis. So they use solar energy to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. And that is what makes the hydrogen a green process. And that's the hydrogen that gets fed into their process. Another problem with the traditional steel process is that it only produces crude steel. So you turn the iron oxide into iron and crude steel in these large blocks. And a metal manufacturer buys these giant pieces of steel by the ton. And it's not ready to be used by users. It's not ready to be a jet engine. It's not ready to be a steel door. It has to be subtractively manufactured away through machining and subtractive manufacturing processes. So there's a buy to use ratio. So the manufacturer has to buy 30 tons of steel to say produce 1 ton of final produced product, which leads to a lot of scrap metal waste in their manufacturing process.
Thanks, Andy. So one of the key technologies for reducing metal waste from manufacturing is using metal 3D printing. So in 3D printing, metal powder is fed in through the tubes you can see shown on the screen. And these jets of metal powder are focused at the same point as a heat source, such as a laser, which melts the metal powder. And this traces around and deposits the metal layer upon layer, which fabricates the final desired part shape. And so this is able to drastically reduce the scrap metal waste because you're just printing the desired part shape instead of buying large blocks and cutting material away. And metal 3D printing is often thought of as a process which can only produce small, unreliable parts. But in recent years, the technology has been developed to large scales and much higher reliability. For example, the large rocket engine shown here, printed by Relativity Space. So inspired by metal 3D printing and inspired by using green hydrogen as a replacement for fossil fuels, we have come up with our green steel printer. We have a provisional patent on this process. So the two inputs starting at the top are iron oxide ore, which is how the material comes out of the earth, and green hydrogen. These two things are mixed together in the reaction zone, and then that forms the iron powder. We can add in additional alloying elements such as carbon in order to make steel. And then at the very bottom, we have our laser print head where we can print the desired shape, for example, our jet engine or steel door. So this is, not only does this reduce the scrap metal waste by using that 3D printing process, but it also reduces the cost by reducing the need to buy excess materials, and plus our raw materials are cheaper. This can also completely eliminate the CO2 emissions from the process of making iron and steel parts. So this is how we envision the future of steel manufacturing. This is a photo from the GE additive facility or 3D printing facility, which would be similar to our planned pilot plant. But rather than using metal powder like they do here, they would buy the iron oxide ore and they would produce their iron and metal parts in-house. So after we develop and demonstrate our technology, we will partner with a company such as an auto manufacturer interested in reducing emissions, waste, and costs. So we are the recent winners of the National Security Innovation Network Award from the UC Big Ideas competition. And we're also finalists with all of the competitions and funding agencies that are on the bottom half of the screen, including this one today. So really right now we're looking to secure more funding in order to develop our prototype further and take this idea further. So thank you for your support.
Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Great job again. Thank you very much. Judges, let's go for our 4 questions, please.
Happy to kick off. I have one quite specific question. So you mentioned all your inputs are cheaper and you're using green hydrogen, which I would understand to be slightly more expensive than traditional steel manufacturing. So just curious to know your kind of techno-economic type analysis of how this comes out. Is it purely the scrap that's making it overall cheaper, or just to help me understand that a little bit more?
Yeah, so for a metal manufacturer, traditionally you buy crude steel by the ton, and the cost savings comes from, rather than buying crude steel, you buy iron oxide ore, which is just essentially rocks and dirt that are mined. And the green hydrogen, you're right, is more expensive than coal and natural gas. But as more and more of the hydrogen economy develops, the price should drop. But even if you use today's cost of green hydrogen, the cost for a metal manufacturer, if they use our process, will be cheaper than the cost of buying crude steel by the ton. So manufacturers will be able to produce a final metal product in the shape desired cheaper than buying crude steel in bulk that they have to undergo further manufacturing processes. But great question.
Thank you.
Great. Another question, please?
I have a question.
Yeah,
Go ahead, please.
Go ahead, Ted.
No, I insist.
All right, just a quick question. My question is more on how long will it take you to get a prototype so you can start to test and partner with someone that can show you that it actually is functioning and a good substitute for their current processes?
We're hoping to have our minimally viable prototype in about a year. This also depends on us getting the funding and the lab space that we need, but we think that we should be able to get some real proof of concept done within about a year or two.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, so we're essentially weaving two pretty cutting edge material science ideas. So the green hydrogen reduction of iron oxide and metal 3D printing are both independently proven. So our main technical risk is weaving those two together. So two steps that should work together, and we know how they work. And yeah, it should take us about a year or so to prove the idea out and demonstrate it.
And actually, my question fits as a follow-on, which is you're developing the prototype and the MVP now. And then let's say auto manufacturer says, we'd love to work with you. What are the scaling issues in terms of the product, your instruments, to get them from where the prototype is scaled up to where a large manufacturer could use them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way that we're planning on scaling up is not for us to be doing all of the manufacturing, but for us to partner with these companies and create pilot plants where they can manufacture their own parts in-house, but they're using our technology. And so I guess the main scaling issues then would be getting them enough of our 3D printing machines in order to create parts at the scale that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess to follow up a little bit on that. So in the current designs, the dimensions is about 1 cubic foot, but you can imagine that manufacturers want to build larger than a cubic foot. So after the demonstration, we plan to scale that up larger, which will require bringing on more engineers and developing it to just be a bigger thing of the original idea, though.
I'm here to talk to you about Cryos, which is a cooling vest that will revolutionize personal cooling for people living in hot environments. And I'm Jose Suarez, director of the Cryos team. So when we're outside and it's hot, and I mean at 90, 95, or 100 plus degrees, we know that there's nothing that we can do to not feel uncomfortably hot. For me now personally, there have been so many times when I have wished that I had my own personal air conditioning that followed me everywhere on days that were hot. Like a couple of summers ago when I was in Disney World in Florida. And I think that so many of us have had similar thoughts at some point. And global warming is a reality. 2016 and 2020 were the warmest years ever recorded. And there are so many greenhouse gases in the atmosphere that the Earth is expected to continue to warm for at least the next 80 to 120 years. And because of this, NASA emphasizes that as a species, we need to learn to adapt to this new warmer reality, in addition to, of course, mitigating the emission of greenhouse gases. Now, hot weather is already affecting millions of workers, like construction workers in Arizona or Dubai, or airplane operators in Georgia, or the military, firefighters, or even Pluto at Disneyland. And the issue is that in 2021, we still don't have good ways to cool ourselves. And I'm sure you've all seen those little portable fans that don't really cool anything. So I present to you Cryos, the first lightweight portable battery-powered cooling vest, which includes revolutionary portable cooling technology inspired by NASA that is allowing us to reduce the size of the cooling unit while providing a considerable amount of cooling. Now, in this past year, we have gone a very long way with product development, starting with prototype number 1, shown here to the left. And currently we're working on prototype number 2, and actually it will be more like a prototype 2.1 now, which incorporates game-changing technological advances that improve the performance and efficiency of the system. We're also designing a smart controller to automatically regulate the temperatures preferred by the user. It includes interchangeable batteries, providing hours of cooling per battery. And we have developed our own app to communicate, control, and regulate the system. Now here's a sneak peek of prototype number 2 being tested in a simulated environment between 95 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, an important environmental impact of this vest is that we can even use it indoors, which would reduce the amount of air conditioning needed in buildings and thus energy use. As for the team, I'm the director of the Cryos team and faculty in the School of Public Health, and I do research on how the environment affects people's health, and I'm experienced managing multi-million-dollar projects. Also in the team is Vlad Melnick, a skilled and technical mechanical engineer, with whom we have been working and fostering input and contributions from other phenomenal senior engineering students at UCSD, such as Rachel, Noah, Jacob, Sam, Xochitl, Edgar, Tyler, Jocelyn, and Josh. And it's been an amazing team effort, and I am very thankful to have this amazing team working on this. As for our competition, it includes other vests, such as the one shown here. And these have not been very popular because of important limitations. First, for instance, existing vests like this one use blocks of ice to cool the user. Now, this results in an uncomfortably cold sensation or even freeze burn because you're putting ice on your skin. And the other issue is that these vests last for 30 to maybe 50 minutes. So it's a short-term benefit. Other designs circulate cold water into a vest, which does provide a good amount of cooling for as long as that cooling unit is connected to the electricity. But as you can see in that picture, the issue is that the cooling unit, which is that big cooler next to these people, is huge. They're very big, they're heavy, it's just not portable. So these particular designs have very limited uses. And portability is where our product excels in. In the US, there are 16 million people who work outdoors or are exposed to heat. And of this 16 million workers or their employers, it includes construction workers, logistics and transportation, active military, farm workers, firefighters, and others. And one of the main concerns is that worker protections from high temperatures are sorely lacking. So why would companies want to cool their employees? Well, health is the first one, it's a given, right? And we know that between 1992 and 2016, excessive heat seriously injured 70,000 workers in the US. And that's why OSHA states that heat precautions must be implemented when ambient temperatures are above 91 degrees Fahrenheit. This means that employers are required to protect their workers. But there's also an economic incentive. Worker productivity declines by 2% for every degree above room temperature. Now, we've done some limited market analysis. We have spoken with 5 construction companies here in San Diego, all of which show that they had a desire to own this type of vest. And in our general public sample of 21 to 30-year-olds, almost 3 out of 4 reported a desire to own a vest of this type. Now, it's important to know that there are 96 million people, mostly living in the southern United States, as you can see there, who live in temperatures above 90 degrees Fahrenheit for more than 100 days each year. So even if a tiny fraction of these are interested in our product, it would still be a huge market. And we can also think about other potential markets like the Arab Emirates or India, Australia, Brazil, Spain, you name it. So thank you for your attention. I ask for your support in the Triton Innovation Challenge so we can continue to fine-tune our technology with the aim of making it a production-ready garment, and we can start preparing for incorporation. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Jose. Great job, really interesting. Judges, it's time for some questions. Over to you.
I guess I can start. Sorry, Ted, if you wanted to go, you can go.
No.
My first question would be, whenever I see the use of batteries, I want to know the sustainability of it, because we already have issues with, non-reusable batteries, and the solar batteries are building in technology. But what do you plan to use as your energy source, and the reuse of it or environmental side of that?
So the battery question is something that we want to include. We're right now not giving too much thought about it because we're working on the technology to address this other environmental issue, which is coping with high heat. And I completely agree with what you're saying. We need to be very, from the beginning, I would say, once we start getting this more production ready, start incorporating more greenness into the battery systems. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Carrie. Ted, did you have a question?
Yes, but I want to make sure other judges get a chance to ask questions.
I have one. So great presentation. What about the market research? Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because again, understanding the users of it, right? And saying 16 million, that's a lot of people. If you target more in, have you interview, or is that in the drawings of saying this is where you're going to go for the next prototype? So understand how you're actually going to wear it, how to use it, what's discomfort. So to understand the user that's using it.
Correct. So thank you for that question, Sana. So right now we haven't done too much on the market research side. Again, we're in the prototyping phase at this moment, and starting to get into the market analysis. So the market analysis was a limited one. And one of our targets, so we have different target users. And the way that we've been envisioning is that we would probably end up starting off with two different vests. One vest that is more of a high performance, more expensive vest for those users that require a lot of cooling, and another one that would be more affordable and with a good amount of cooling ultimately. So now coming back to your question specifically, so some of the ones that we started getting and that's the reason why we contacted, were construction companies. And a big part of that was because of the OSHA requirements, is that they're required to protect their workers when it gets above 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's one of our target users. Of course, there are many other target users, including the military. That's another very substantial component. And it is a big challenge. I do have relatives in the military who have been deployed to the Middle East and saying that they're struggling to keep up with the heat that they're day in and day out. There's air conditioning, and they're wearing so much gear that is problematic. And actually, with the armed forces, heat exhaustion and heat-related illnesses are some of the most important concerns there. And then the next question is, yes, so there's this 96 million people that I mentioned. There's also the general user. So I'm saying that from this 96 million people that live, again, for 1/3 of their lives at temperatures above 91 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe some of them might be interested in buying something like this just for their own leisure, so they can go to Disneyland and not be sweating like crazy with their kids.
Right. Thank you. Ted?
To follow up on that, with that larger dynamic and addressable market, this is maybe a silly question, but what are the limits of cooling the chest area as opposed to your head and other places? I mean, at some point, are there limits to how much it helps as the temperature goes higher and higher, and you got discomfort other places and other issues?
Correct. So the main issue becomes that anything above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, our body just cannot cool it. And that's exactly why when we have a fever, it becomes a problem, anything above 100 degrees, right? So actually the main issue is trying to cool it. Now, we're not trying to cool our bodies down to 50 degrees. we're trying to cool it down. If you're at 100 degrees, we're trying to bring it down to a comfortable 74 degrees. So most of the heat production in the body is actually coming from your chest, and not so much on your heat. I mean, heat rises, of course, but most of it is really being produced right there. So I don't know if I'm answering your question.
That was. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Great. We have time for one more question.
Thanks, Leo. Jose, I'm curious about the main technological challenge you're facing right now as you're, putting your prototype together. Can you speak a bit about that?
I wish I could. So right now we are about to submit for the patent disclosure. So I can't really talk too much about the technology. We can maybe have this conversation in a few months, and I'd be happy to talk about technology.
Hello there, and welcome to the Lichen Lab. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about keeping fume hoods in laboratories closed and how we achieve that here in the Lichen Lab. So the issue, whenever researchers work with dangerous chemicals in a laboratory, they work inside of a fume hood as pictured here. And so oftentimes fume hoods are present and in labs predominantly because they're safety devices. And so they allow research to be conducted safely when you work with dangerous chemicals, because that's where you want to do all your dangerous work, is inside this enclosure that's ventilated at the top, so that anything that goes wrong inside doesn't blow back out and hurt you. And so basically, these are safety devices, they're enclosures, but oftentimes they're needlessly left open. And that is a big issue because over the past couple of decades, there have been fatal accidents at various research institutions just from hoods being left open and things going wrong in the hood. And so in addition to safety being an issue of keeping related to fume hoods closed, it's a question of environment. And so an open hood wastes over $1,000 in energy per hood per year. And so when you have these institutions like UCSD or MIT on the order of thousands of fume hoods, this is a significant energy drain. And globally, with over 1 million fume hoods out there, over $1 billion is wasted annually just from hoods being left open needlessly. And so also, this is an issue of compliance for our customers. And so Title 24, if you work in the energy efficiency space, you've definitely heard of it. And if not, that's okay. It's a California energy code related to building energy efficiency that currently requires all new laboratories with fume hoods to have automatic fume hood closers. And so these automatic fume hood closers do a great job of keeping fume hoods closed, which reduces that energy and improves lab safety. But fortunately, they come at a pretty penny. And so that's $4,000 or $5,000 a piece per hood. And so when you're in a new laboratory building, even if you're a really rich actor, well-funded institution, this is a capital expenditure that really people have objected to as we've done our customer discovery. It seems like a lot of people are really not wanting to go down the route of automatic fume hood closers when we talk to our facilities managers. And so how we address this is with an alarm that reminds lab users to keep fume hoods closed. And so how it works basically is when a hood is left open and unattended for 3 minutes, it will go off until either motion is detected in front of the fume hood or the fume hood is closed. And so that creates this psychological entrainment of keeping fume hoods closed instead of just automatically shutting the sash. So our alarm basically reduces airflow immediately by 75% at a fume hood. It saves over $1,000 annually based on our pilot data at MIT. And it costs $150 for our end user per hood, and it's installed by anyone in 20 seconds. And additionally, in terms of energy savings, it pays for itself in 2 months. And based on that pilot that I referenced at MIT, 76 alarms save over $100,000 in energy per year based on pre-COVID data, which is exciting. And it's 20 times cheaper than automatic fume hood closers and achieves almost exactly the same efficacy of keeping them closed when it comes to automatic closers versus alarms. And so we're also working with our beta customers now to work to change Title 24. And although it's not requisite to our business success, it's something that we're working on with our partners in California because they care a lot about being able to comply with Title 24 and in a way that doesn't break the bank. And so just getting into the nitty gritty here, our alarms cost $15 to manufacture at scale. They can be IoT equipped for those that desire fume hood monitoring and energy performance monitoring at the fume hood. Some customers are interested in that for engagement programs so that they can help their researchers keep accountable when it comes to how they're using their fume hoods. So our beachhead is sustainability, environmental health and safety, and facilities managers in California, where there's over 100,000 hoods. And so that represents a humble $15 million one-time market for our beachhead. And it's California because of Title 24, which we're hoping to change for these managers here in California. Sales occur directly, direct negotiated on our web platform, and are leveraged by things like our referral system and our hyper-targeted email marketing campaigns. And so just to give you a sense, as we zoom back out here to the 20,000-foot view, there's over 1 million hoods in the world, which represent these market numbers of total, in total, like a $150 million one-time sale. And then the annual piece is if depending on the needs of the customer, if they're desiring to have an IoT-enabled product, based on kind of the customer discovery we've done, we project that annually for our IoT kind of revenue for fume hood monitoring. And then this is what we expect in revenue for our first year at post-launch in January of our commercial product. And this is the team. So me, Will, founder and CEO, used to work as a laboratory researcher at UMass Medical School and the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard. As I was so graciously introduced by Leo, I used to work at UCSD Sustainability in our Green Labs program. If you're not familiar and you're in a lab, go check it out. But Seth does everything product related. He's our electrical engineer, and Austin does our user research. And yeah, basically moving forward, we have an amazing cohort of strategic advisors for our work in our future so far. But chugging right along, what's the alternative? Engagement programs, automatic fume hood closers, and then this IoT hood monitoring startup, Raven IoT. And engagement programs, basically a lot of institutions solve this just by educating their researchers how to keep hoods closed, pardon me. But it's not very persistent. So that's like a 10% airflow reduction, but it goes down pretty rapidly once they stop doing that. And it's not really, doesn't compare to the 70% airflow reduction. And yeah, so Temperature Electronics makes the automatic, and then Raven IoT makes a similar product, but it's more catered just towards energy monitoring, not as much just keeping fume hoods closed. As for our traction, we have this amazing design team. Our MVP is complete. We're working on our version 1.0 for commercial launch. We're currently in the beta customer phase, and we've been awarded over $20,000 in non-dilutive funding to date. Our advanced sales discussions with 3 UC campuses, you've probably heard of some of them, and we're demoing 50 of our alarms at UC San Diego. And so this is our timeline. And so we're hoping to reach commercial launch in January of next year. And we're currently in our beta phase, but at the Lichen Lab, we democratize early stage technologies that have an outsized impact on the sustainability of laboratories. And this is where we're beginning here with our product. And that's kind of our camel's nose in the tent of laboratory sustainability. And so our ask to any judge or anyone in the audience is that if you're a researcher or know anyone in a lab who might be willing to help us with demo sites, because if you care about sustainability in laboratories, this means a lot for us. We'd love to engage with anyone. So thank you so much for your time. And I'd love to hear from you here. Thank you so much.
Great job, Will. Judges, questions, please.
Hi there. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It's really interesting, and I suppose an elegant solution to a problem. And so my question is, once you prove this solves the problem, what stops manufacturers of hoods to incorporate this into their design or others replicating it? So could you go a little bit more detail about the technology itself, and yeah, what's defensible?
Yeah, happy to talk about defensibility. Thank you for asking. I'm so glad I have the opportunity to talk about it. So essentially right now, there are 1 million fume hoods in the world, as mentioned. And so currently, only around 10 or 20,000 new fume hoods are put in every year. And this is just based on market research we've done. But the top of the line current fume hood has features like this that remind lab users to keep fume hoods closed. But we're not necessarily trying to compete with the present and the future fume hood market. But for the 1 million hoods that are already left over in the world that don't have this feature, that's kind of what we're trying to target. And so these are devices that retrofit, they plug right in to the outside of hoods. Installation is literally just plugging it in and walking away. And so in terms of defensibility, we're not trying to compete necessarily in the future just with this product, but for that 1 million, that's what we're working on now. But in terms of the interest of fume hood manufacturers to make a competing product, this has actually been public domain for several years. And so fume hood manufacturers are aware that this exists, but For one reason or another, we've talked with actually some of the innovation groups of fume hood manufacturers at Valdner, which is one of the largest manufacturers of fume hoods in the world, but they're not really interested in that because their current top of the line, which is their current sales pipeline is built up for, already has that feature. So they're not trying to go back and look backwards and make this product right now. And so I hope that answers your question, Luke.
Great, thank you.
Great. Judges, another question, please.
I have one. Great presentation. I love the retrofit because you're solving a problem right now here. What about the future? Do you have like generation 2, 3, 4 on your roadmap? If you have anything, can you share some insights there?
Absolutely. So right now, our devices work amazingly well with the design of fume hoods that currently is most predominant. So 60% of fume hoods are of the specific design where they open vertically. And our alarm works really well for that. But our current development challenge is making one that works on any fume hood. And so for the other 40% or 30%, it's a little bit unclear. It's hard to get data on this. Those fume hoods open horizontally. And so basically right now, Seth and Austin and I are working on the version that works on both. And so that's our current developmental challenge, but we're very fortunate to be where we're at already. And so looking forward in terms of what we might want to work on in the future, there's certainly a lot of room in the IoT enabled laboratory energy efficiency space. And so currently lab ventilation is usually the largest energy drawer on any research campus. And so basically, we want to make products that chunk any bit away from that sort of piece of the pie, because energy expenditure is super huge in labs. They use 10 times the energy of an office space, majority of energy for a campus. And so currently our kind of like second product is that I kind of want a little close-lipped about, but it's not really necessary, forgive me, is a risk-based like laboratory ventilation monitoring system that can ramp down not just at fume hoods, but also with the whole air handling laboratory ventilation system.
Great. Judges, another question, please.
Can I ask one more?
Please, thank you.
Okay, so have you looked into, I know you're looking at one industry, but me sitting looking at this, I'm like, oh my God, your device could be used in other industries or other challenges. Have you looked into that, or is that just too much of going out of scope?
Absolutely, that's a great question. But so fortunately, we have this amazing technology that already works. And so you're totally right to ask, are we going to apply this in other industries? And so right now, it looks like we're evaluating potential applications for that other industry use, and it's definitely viable to look at other industries. But our core expertise and how our team is built in terms of strategic advisory right now, and my expertise being a former researcher, we really want to focus on sustainability in laboratories and then move towards other high energy intensity spaces like data centers. But we really want to focus in on laboratories, and that's our goal. And so obviously, if this tech is valuable to others in other industries, we're happy to license, but that's not really something that we're trying to really tackle on, because our current traction and network and trajectory is all towards developing and democratizing sustainability in laboratories.
We have time for one more question. Any judge have a question?
I think Sana should keep going. Those are really good questions. You already answered my question through that, William. Thanks, Sana. Just a quick question, William. Who's missing on your team, you think, to accelerate your development to be where you guys want to be?
Amazing question. And so currently right now, we don't have a core competency in basically working on long-term sales. So right now, being the founder and CEO, sales is all me. But once we have more runway and more traction that we're garnering right now with our early customers, step one, hire another salesperson. And so, startups are all product and sales. And so right now, we're fortunate enough to be super ahead on the product, but now is when it's on my back to be able to really expand our sales pipeline and move into sales. But our core competencies that we also want to build out in the future, just beyond accessing more sales, is more understanding of the policy space surrounding Title 24. So we're looking for strategic advisors in the energy efficiency space. We're also looking for folks who are able to help us with the whole utilities energy efficiency partnership space. that occurs between actors like UCSD and SDG&E, understanding how utilities really are able to reimburse wonderful energy efficiency products for their customers like UCSD. Understanding more of that pipeline and how we can work with utilities is another core competency that we're working to build out in the future.
Hey everyone, thank you for being here. My name's Tyler, and I'm here with SynBio Energy, where we are repurposing biology to solve our greatest problems. And today I want to talk to you about something that we all use every single day, and we would all be unable to live without it. So you all might be thinking, Tyler, what are you talking about? And today I want to talk about wastewater treatment. Globally, we see about 80% of wastewater receives zero treatment, and this can result in a 40% shortage by 2030. Another example of wastewater treatment mismanagement is the Tijuana River. In Tijuana, the centralized wastewater treatment facilities are unable to meet the city's demands, and that results in pollution and health concerns. Over on the side, you can actually see a picture of the Tijuana River, and this is just a result of this type of management. In agriculture, wastewater treatment is also very important. Places like wineries, breweries, and farms need to meet state, regional, and county regulations for effluent discharge. Now, to address all these issues, the best solution isn't always to put a full-on centralized wastewater treatment facility nearby. Sometimes decentralized technologies are the best way to go. Now, recently, as of January 2021, California now has new regulations for wineries and their effluent. So this is going to result in wineries having to increase the amount of regulation and water treatment that they do. A quote from one small Sonoma County winery was that they expect over the next few years to invest about $500,000 in upgrading their system so it can meet the water discharge requirements of California. Now, at SynBio Energy, our solution is a 3-chamber bioreactor. And what we do is we treat wastewater to create electricity. We remove salt and contamination, as well as things like nitrates and phosphates. And we upgrade CO2 to a usable biofuel. Now, with our reactors, we're able to scale to meet the volume requirements of our customers, and we're also able to use a modular system which can integrate with existing peripheral components like anaerobic digestion and other filters and screens. So here's the first proof of concept that we have. There's one chamber for wastewater treatment. There's one for desalination and contamination removal, and there's also one for CO2 upgrading to a biofuel. And another iteration of a similar reactor is this right here. So we basically have our 3 chambers. We have our wastewater treatment, we have desalination, and then we have biogas upgrading. So in terms of our market, we interviewed over 20 customers. And what we saw was decentralization was a topic that was really important to them. One winery said that basically the terrain around their winery makes them pump water uphill, and that becomes an issue with pressure and pumping, which is very expensive for them. Additionally, they also don't have a well on their facility. So for them, when they discharge water, they don't know when it's going to come back. So it's really important for them to treat their water and be able to use it again for some application. Another driving force for our customers, about 50% of our interviews showed that regulation was the main driving force for their wastewater treatment technologies. So for them, they noted that as regulations changed, they basically changed their systems. That's also very important with the California regulations coming out recently. Social innovation was also really important to customers. One expert in the field mentioned how in Tijuana, there's no jurisdiction on how to treat wastewater, but they can recommend how it should be done. But if there's not an affordable decentralized technology, there's really no hope in addressing that issue. Lastly, aeration was really important to our customers. This is an expensive process in wastewater treatment, and if we can eliminate that, we can save a lot of money for the customers. So from these interviews, our pain points were resource availability, meeting local regulations to avoid charges, the price point to treat water, and aeration. Now, in terms of our global market opportunity, the global market size for water and wastewater treatment is about $64.4 billion with a CAGR of 5.2%. Wastewater treatment is a little bit smaller, $60 billion. And for our serviceable obtainable market, we anticipate having a market size of $2 billion, and that's agricultural wastewater treatment and containerized treatment systems. Now, from a bottom-up approach, we also saw that based off of that $500,000 investment that these wineries would have to make, and the approximate 3,000 wineries that will actually have to comply with this, we can see a similar market of $1.2 or $1.5 billion over the next few years in California alone. Now, in terms of our competition, there are a few notable companies. Some of them are in California. The first one I want to mention is Midas, and this was a research demonstration showing a similar membrane technology was able to desalinate water to the point of drinking, and they did it in a pretty energy efficient manner. Two California companies, Microvi and Aquacycle, also do wastewater treatment. So Microvi also creates solutions for drinking water and desalination. Aquacycle solely focuses on wastewater treatment, and they do it in a partially energy efficient way. And lastly, we have Biomicrobics, and what they do is basically recreate the standard process of wastewater treatment, but in an underground system for homes. At SynBioEnergy, we believe that we can treat wastewater, desalinate, create a biofuel that can sustain the process and do it in an energy efficient way. So our competitive advantage would be efficiency and versatility of our system. Now, our goals as a company line up with the United Nations development goals. The first one being clean water and sanitation, second being affordable and clean energy, and the last one being industry, innovation, and infrastructure. And we plan to address the market by partnering with wineries and charging them for the installation, maintenance, and quality control of our reactors, as well as replacing consumables like membranes. And we also hope to apply for grants to get our large-scale proof of concept out in a winery, as well as receive additional funding to get these reactors in places like Tijuana, where they can have a huge impact and actually change the world. Now, as for milestones and future directions this year, as a company, we raised about $20,000 for our proof of concepts. We've demonstrated that we can desalinate, treat wastewater, and create a biofuel. This is only partial demonstration. We know we can get better results. And we've also pivoted towards wineries. Lastly, I'd also like to note that we have our provisional patent out. As for future directions, we'd like to demonstrate that we can meet the California effluent requirements. We're also in the process of finalizing our first letter of intent with a winery. We plan to participate in the NSF I-Corps, and we hope by the end of the year to have our finalized modular design for our commercialized reactor. And with that, I'd like to say thank you so much for your time. Please share us through the grapevine with any connections you know in the winery space. I'm Tyler Myers, founder, and I'd like to thank Dr. Christy Dykstra, who's been the advisor for all of this, Gio and Caitlin, who are our two super exciting and fun engineers, and all these incubators and programs that have got me here. And thank you all for listening to this. Any questions?
Yes, judges, please feel free to ask questions. Thank you.
I have a quick question. Nice presentation. I see the solution and definitely understand the problem. So nicely done. My question would be on, you said you've done 20 customer interviews. And is that mainly in wineries, or can you go a little more into depth of the types of customers you've talked to and the next level of customer interviews you'll do?
Yeah, so the way this actually started was we wanted to get this technology in wastewater treatment facilities. So we started by interviewing wastewater treatment facility managers or people who do their regulations and supervising of all the discharges and things like that. And it seemed over time like this technology isn't ready to be super large scale, and it's particular niche is going to be in smaller places like wineries or in agriculture. So after going through that process, we have maybe 15 interviews now towards the winery space, where we're actually seeing these people who have their own treatment systems that are dated back to 2002, and they're seeing with the new regulations that they're going to have to either upgrade their system that they currently have, or they're going to need to adopt a technology to integrate with their technology that they have now. So that's why I also noted this can integrate with peripheral technologies that already exist. So maybe this could be a stepping stone for them that they can add on to their processes, rather than taking the whole system out, installing a new $100,000 system, and trying to meet the new regulations.
Thanks, Tyler. Judges, another question, please.
I think it was smart to pivot to paying customers, assuming the wine piece works out, that to get to sustain yourselves, to get to the next level. I'm curious about back to that scaling question about the larger facilities, say not quite ready or not yet. I'm just curious, because that's a huge need. What was it about? Are there things you can modify in what you do, or your process or your approach, that you could plug into them, the larger ones?
So I don't know if this would plug into the larger ones yet. Basically, the decentralized technologies and the microbial, like we use microbial communities, and those really work well for small volumes of water rather than like large cities. So I don't know if this will integrate into a bigger system, but it could integrate into these systems that already exist in wineries. So I don't know if this will be efficient enough at that huge scale for a whole city though.
Thank you.
Judges, another question, please.
Tyler, great presentation. Thanks. Regarding the IP, how do you protect your IP and how defendable, and what's your core IP there? You know, you listed well, or you compare, differentiate yourself to the existing competition. Now, how can you defend your core IP?
So our whole system works anaerobically, and in terms of aeration, like that's one of the most inefficient processes. Also, in the way that the reactor works, electrons are shuttled and we use those for something rather than other places where they get like oxidized and basically scavenged by oxygen. So I think our advantage is we're creating something that can power the system while treating the water, and that will in turn be able to push our costs down. Already for like small scale systems, we're looking at like 2 cents to like 10 cents per meter cubed for water. And if we can get that to 0, which based off of like calculations and things like that, we predict that we can actually fully power the reactor with the energy provided from the reactor. So I think that's basically our competitive advantage. We're trying to keep the energy in the system so we can power the system.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here today. So I'm with a startup company called Ocean Motion Technologies, and we make a off-grid modular ocean wave energy device that's controlled by an artificial intelligence system. So the device hardware can physically adapt to ambient wave conditions and optimize power output in a variety of locations. And currently, most of the commercial partners that we work with focus on small-scale applications. So that means off-grid, low-power applications in data buoys and moorings for ocean observation, maritime monitoring, offshore aquaculture monitoring, and the surveillance for coastal security and defense. And personally, I'm a polar oceanographer by training, like Leo said, from Scripps. And this training is what inspired the founding of this company. So in 2015, I was deployed at sea, and one of the many tasks we were doing was to conduct this routine maintenance service on our data buoys in the Southern Ocean. So that means to clean the solar panels and switch out the batteries. And while I was on the ship, it kind of hit me, why are we using solar when there's plenty of wave energy from the ocean? Now, this was back in 2015, and we didn't really find any commercially available small-scale wave energy devices. So we thought, okay, this is something we'll have to do on our own then. And we really started at the right time, at the right place, because the blue economy is also transitioning to a big data paradigm, and there are many applications of big data in the ocean. And I'll just point out a few examples here. Better data on fishery can prevent overfishing and also identify the location of schools of fish. Remote surveillance buoys can monitor illegal maritime activities. Better data from the ocean can provide better forecasting and give us a deeper understanding of our changing climate and even help in tsunami detection and prediction. And these capabilities are achieved by 3 categories of technologies. First is autonomy, which refers to robotics and AI solutions in the ocean. And then we need a network, which refers to linking these autonomous sensors and the platforms over space and in time. And we have fairly mature technologies for these first 2 categories. And this is mostly through work done by the traditional technology sector and also right here at Scripps. But big data remains expensive in the ocean because it is limited by access to power at sea. And very early on, when we participated in the innovation programs at UCSD, we were taught to validate our thesis by talking to customers. And this led to our team establishing working relationships with multiple commercial partners very early on, and we have effectively made them part of our team. So we're getting feedback based on realistic customer needs to achieve better product market fit. And this is just a fraction of partners we're working with, and they're sort of layered chronologically, and you can see Scripps didn't directly introduce us to our customers, but it's always about knowing the people who know people, right? And so this ecosystem at UCSD has been a catalyst for our commercial development. And because we're such a customer-focused company, this market-centric approach has brought us a lot of success in terms of securing resources that are necessary to take this company to the next level. And we applied to the precursor to the Triton Innovation Challenge in 2016. And I think back then it was called the TriNet Challenge. And we didn't even make past the screening phase. And we tried it again in 2017 and made it to the semifinal. And we tried it again in 2018 and won second place. And at the same time, we set up shop at the TCI facility, which includes a machine shop and tooling facility. And we have also received support from multiple organizations and agencies. We were awarded a SBIR grant from the Department of Energy. And prior to that, we have received the CalSeed Award from the California Energy Commission. We have also entered a few CRADAs with the Sandia National Lab and the National Renewable Energy Lab, and the development there is funded by DOE vouchers through the TEAMR program. And we have also received support from the Eastman Foundation, the Venturewell Foundation, and late last year, we were part of the Cleantech Opens finalist competition as one of the top 6 companies nationwide. And this, and all of this was made possible because we're taught early on to focus on our customers and be pragmatic with our commercial development. And there are many opportunities looking ahead, including the Department of Energy's Powering the Blue Economy Initiative and the United Nations Ocean Decade. And these programs will continue to drive the development of better and more reliable power at sea and help the blue economy shift to the big data paradigm that I described earlier. And with that, I would like to thank everyone involved in supporting this ecosystem at Scripps, namely Gwen, Karen, Marie, Dennis, Vanessa, Alex, Joyce, and Diana for coordinating these really great innovation programs. And I also want to acknowledge and thank the leadership of Director Margaret Leinen and the collaboration among Scripps, Jacobs, and Rady Schools at UCSD, as well as the Scripps Family Foundation that made this vibrant ecosystem possible. And the access to this ecosystem really helped jumpstart many companies like Ocean Motion and make this a successful endeavor for our entire team. And also congratulations to all the teams here. Your pitches were great and they're way better than the one I gave 3 years ago. And that's all I have. Thanks so much for your time.
Great. Well, Jack, thank you so much. It is inspiring. So exciting to see all your progress and all the great things you're doing, and much success in the future.
Jack, congratulations on the exciting growth that you and your colleagues have achieved in such a short time since you participated in the Triton Innovation Challenge. I think also for all of you who are in this year's challenge, you can see that even those who are runners-up or other participants have a great future. So if you're not selected, please continue, and you may be back here in a couple of years telling the next set of challengers what a tremendous experience you've had with your company since. So I know also all of you will join me in applauding the teams that presented this morning. I really enjoyed the presentations. Congratulations on all of them, and such a great and wide spectrum of approaches to sustainability. So this is an exciting year for UC San Diego Innovation, and we're delighted to share that we're building on the years of successful collaboration with Rady School of Management and Jacobs School of Engineering to launch Start Blue. And Start Blue is the newest Start R accelerator. It's open to teams across the San Diego region. And Start Blue supports startups that bring science and engineering solutions to address ocean challenges. And today's launch is made possible by a grant from the Economic Development Administration's 2020 Build to Scale Industry Challenge, as well as very generous support from the Builders Initiative, SDG&E, California Sea Grant, Ocean Visions, the Beister Foundation for Enterprise Development, and our Scripps Directors Council. Start Blue provides teams access to the world-class entrepreneurship, ocean science, and engineering expertise from UC San Diego, and it connects teams to the wealth of ocean innovation resources across the San Diego community. We are pleased to announce that applications are open today, so be sure to get in your application by July 2nd. So with that, Leo, I'll hand things back to you to begin the pitch award announcements.
Great. Well, thank you very, very much. And I think at this point, it's my honor to bring back my good friend, Dean Pisano, who will announce the winners.
All right, so everybody, the moment we've been waiting for, I will start by making one announcement. This is the $1,500 prize winner for Audience Choice. And the winner for Audience Choice is the Syn Bioenergy Company. Congratulations, all of you guys.
I have the honor of announcing the runner-up, and this is for the $4,000 prize. And the runner-up is the Lichen Lab.
Okay, everybody, this is Al Pisano returning back again. We're going to be talking about the grand prize, $7,000. It's my honor to announce the grand prize winner is Green Steel Printing. Congratulations.
Obviously, I want to just, again, thank everyone for attending, to all the companies that presented, awesome job. Everyone wins here. What you're doing is amazing and is improving the world and learning, and there's nothing that's better than that. I want to thank again our judges, everybody who helped put the event together. We've all been through many of these Zoom experiences, and luckily this one ran pretty efficiently. I do look forward to doing this sometime soon when we can all be together and enjoy each other's company. And I want to thank everyone for coming, and congratulations to all, and stay safe and continue to do great things for UC San Diego.